somebody kindly pointed me into the direction of The Shallows. They were like, you've got to deep dive. You've got to look into this. And so I've been looking into this morning. I already found stuff, guys. I already found stuff. Basically, allegedly, Jaswinski was not the original, like the guy that had the original idea for this movie, The Shallows, right? We don't know. So I found this blog from the Writers Guild East.org, and they interview Anthony Jasinski, right? He wrote the spec script for The Shallows. You can take a screenshot and pause and read if you like. I'm going to skip part of it. Basically, he's just saying that he got his inspiration like during Shark Week 2 years prior and stuff. But anyway, he was writing about a movie about a person stranded on a rock island, whatever. It took him like 3 weeks. And he said, I had a pretty durable first draft. Sometimes they take a while to write, and sometimes they tend to, which is cliche, write themselves. It feels that way whenever you have an idea that you're really excited about. It keeps you out at night, grinding your teeth. That's how that came to be. I gave it to my reps, and I got a call at 6 in the morning the next day. Valerie Phillips and David Boxerbaum. My agents flipped for it, so we went out and with it and sold it very quickly. So, as we know, this is a survival horror thriller film. However, note that they changed it from R to PG-13. Does that sound familiar? In the opening scene, and go ahead and scroll away if you don't want to know spoiler alerts for this movie. But in the one of the opening scenes, a kid is walking by the beach and finds some GoPro something or another. Well, in the original film script, the spec, whatever script, he was supposed to find body parts and stuff like that. And at some point, Nancy was supposed to find a severed head with a GoPro helmet or something like that. So it was very gory. It was more like horror film, and they whitewashed it to make it PG-13. Does that sound familiar?
There's different, not different screenwriters, but there's different methods that screenwriters use. And I'm not a rewrite person. I'm generally what do they call it? Self-generating. Yeah. I've always been very, fortunate that out of these movies that have sort of, made these giant, these giant films out of a shark movie and streamline it again.
How do you take the shark back from the Sharknado, Tony?
Yeah, Sharknado is a good reference. And I was watching Duel that week too, and I put the two together. And I'd like to tell you it was my own idea, and it was a brilliant sort of thing out of nowhere, but it was sort of like everybody has. You take two ideas, you put them together, oh, that would be really interesting. It's just one person versus a shark. How can you do that? And then is there a Hitchcockian way to where you have set pieces and you're able to make this person survive and get back to a shore that she can see a mere 100, 200 yards. Right about trying to write it because it would just come off as an hour-long, Twilight Zone episode. It feels like I don't know if I could sustain that suspense for at least 85 minutes, but it all seemed to work out at the end. But I should tell you that the original script was in the deep, and it was a really hard horror film. It had a bit of a darker ending, and it had some very graphic scenes. And I think Tom Rothman and the good people at Sony wanted to find a way to take a mild budget thriller and make it sort of a summer movie that can go against the big Marvels of the world, but at the same time entertain people in kind of an accessible way. And I think that's where The Shallows kind of went.
Did you just hear that? And remember, Remember this article from the Hollywood Reporter from December 21st, 2022. It says, Tom Rothman is this year's studio valedictorian by holding up theatrical, making grown-up movies that don't break the bank and exploiting IP with savvy. Sony's film buzz had a stellar 2022. Tom Rothman, the same dude that told Blake Lively, according to her in her PGA letter, that said, okay, you can show the movie at Book Bonanza if you do this and this. Tom Rothman, the same dude that told, what's his name? Jasinski, whatever, like the guy that wrote the script for The Shallows, in the Deep. Except, at least dude knew it was like directly Rothman, like a decision from Rothman. At least back then they were a little bit more straightforward because they were like, hey, we want to make it more commercial. This freaking movie was supposed to be a horror film, and they made it the summer movie because you heard it from this witness that heard Tom Rothman say that that's what they wanted to do. And The Shallows was born. Like, do you see what I'm telling you when I say that the powers that be are just deploying the Trojan horse, but the decision comes from above? In my opinion, very much allegedly.